I still remember the day vividly, the day that changed my perspective on life forever. It was the day I walked into that interview, eager yet nervous, my hands clutching my meticulously prepared CV. It was a chance to secure a managerial position at a big company, a position that would mean the culmination of years of hard work and academic dedication. My entire life had been building up to this moment, and I was determined not to let it slip away. The preliminary rounds of the interview process had gone smoothly. I had answered every question confidently, showcasing my achievements and my knowledge. But now, I was in the final round, seated across from the company director himself. His presence was commanding, his gaze sharp, and I could feel the weight of his scrutiny as he flipped through the pages of my CV. I had heard stories about this man, how he valued not just qualifications, but also character, how he sought people who could contribute to the company not just with their minds, but with their hearts. "You've had an excellent academic record," he said, breaking the silence. His eyes met mine, and I straightened my posture. "Never a year where you didn't excel. Quite impressive." "Thank you, sir," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Compliments like that usually filled me with pride, but there was something about the way he said it that made me feel as though he was probing deeper, looking for something beyond the surface. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. "Did you receive any scholarships during your education?" I paused for a moment, unsure of where this line of questioning was headed. "No, sir," I answered honestly. "I didn't receive any scholarships." His expression shifted slightly, a hint of curiosity replacing the neutrality on his face. "Then who paid for your education?" he asked. "My father passed away when I was just a year old," I said, my voice softening. "It was my mother who paid for everything. She worked tirelessly to ensure I could stay in school." For a moment, there was silence. He seemed to be processing my words, his gaze growing more intense. "What does your mother do for a living?" he asked. "She's a laundrywoman," I said. The words felt heavy as they left my mouth, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew how much those words encapsulated these sacrifices, the struggles, the endless toil of a woman who had given everything for her child. The director leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk. "Can I ask you for a favor?" he said, his tone both firm and gentle. "Of course, sir," I replied, though I was taken aback by the unexpected request. "Go home today and clean your mother's hands," he said. "Then come back and see me tomorrow." I blinked, unsure if I had heard him correctly. Clean my mother's hands. The request seemed strange, almost irrelevant to the interview. But there was something about the way he said it, the seriousness in his voice, that made me nod in agreement. "I'll do that," I promised. That evening, as I walked home, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Why had the director asked me to do such a thing? What did it have to do with the job? The more I thought about it, the more unsettled I felt. But I had given my word, and I intended to keep it. When I reached home, I found my mother sitting in her usual spot, sorting through a pile of clothes. She looked up as I entered, her face lighting up with a smile that never failed to warm my heart. "You're back early," she said, her voice as gentle as ever. "Yes, Mom," I replied, sitting down beside her. For a moment, I watched her hands move deftly through the clothes, folding, sorting, and working with a rhythm that spoke of years of practice. These hands had done so much for me, yet I had never truly stopped to think about them. "Mom," I said hesitantly, breaking the silence. "Can I see your hands?" She looked at me, puzzled. "My hands?" she asked, holding them up in confusion. "Yes," I said softly. I want to see them." Slowly, she placed her hands in mine, and as I looked at them, really looked at them, my heart sank. Her hands were rough and calloused, the skin cracked and dry. There were scars, some faded and others still fresh, and her fingers were swollen from years of hard labor. These were not the hands of someone who had lived an easy life. These were the hands of someone who had sacrificed everything for the sake of her child. "Why are you looking at my hands like that?" she asked, a hint of embarrassment in her voice. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my emotions in check. I never realized," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "Realized what?" she asked, her tone curious. "How much you've done for me," I said, my eyes filling with tears. "How much you've sacrificed." She smiled, her eyes softening. "Oh, my dear, there's no need for tears," she said gently. "These hands have done a lot of work. Yes, but it's all been worth it. Everything I've done for you." I asked her to let me clean her hands, and though she protested at first, saying it wasn't necessary, she eventually relented. As I carefully washed her hands, I couldn't hold back my tears. Each scar, each callus, told a story of resilience, of love, of unwavering determination. These were the hands that had shaped my future, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and guilt for having taken them for granted for so long. The next day, I returned to the company, my heart heavy, yet filled with a newfound sense of understanding. The director was waiting for me in his office, and as I entered, he looked up and smiled faintly. "You did as I asked?" he said. "Yes, sir," I replied, my voice steady. "And what did you learn?" he asked, leaning forward slightly. I took a deep breath before answering. "I learned about my mother's sacrifices in a way I hadn't before," I said. "Her hands tell the story of her struggles, her dedication, and her love for me. I realized how much she has endured to give me every opportunity I've had. And I realized that I've never truly appreciated her the way I should." The director nodded, his expression thoughtful. "That's exactly what I wanted you to understand," he said. "A person who has been sheltered from struggle might find it hard to truly appreciate the value of hard work and sacrifice. But you've seen it, you've lived it. That makes you different." His words hit me like a revelation, I had always taken pride in my academic achievements, in my ability to excel in every challenge thrown my way. But now I realized that my success was not mine alone. It was built on the foundation of my mother's sacrifices, on her unwavering support and love. "I'm offering you the job," the director continued, his voice firm yet kind. "Not just because of your academic achievements, but because I believe you understand the values of hard work, gratitude, and humility. Those are qualities we need in a leader." For a moment, I was speechless. The weight of his words sank in, and I felt a surge of gratitude. Not just for the opportunity he was giving me, but for the lessons I had learned along the way. That evening, as I walked home, I thought about my mother and everything she had done for me. Her sacrifices had always been the foundation of my life, but now I understood their depth in a way I never had before. Her hands, rough and scarred as they were a symbol of her strength and love. They were a reminder of the values she had instilled in me: resilience, dedication, and gratitude. When I reached home, I found her in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She looked up as I entered, her face lighting up with that familiar smile. "How did the interview go?" she asked. I walked over to her and hugged her tightly, unable to hold back my tears. "I got the job," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "But, Mom, I want you to know everything I've achieved, everything I will achieve. It's all because of you. Thank you for everything." She held me close, her hands, those hard-working, withered hands, resting gently on my back. "You've made me so proud," she said softly. "That's all I ever wanted." That night, as I lay in bed, I made a promise to myself. I would honor her sacrifices by working hard, by staying humble, and by never forgetting where I came from. And no matter how far I went in life, I would always remember the hands that made it all possible.